Yeah, welcome to this session about merging the design with the supply chain. I'm glad to have the panel with me to talk about that. We got John Dressel from Fluor, TV315 from Intergraph, Philippe Rumler from Endress+Hauser, and Michael Sprague from ThomasNet. So we got all the experts here. So let me start with the first question. Maybe I'll start with you, John. So linking up the design with the supply chain, what kind of benefits and value you see it from your point of view as being the end user, the engineer in this panel?
Well, as we move into a data-centric engineering environment and we try to get rid of the paper and the paper trail, it's more important that we get our vendor data in a data format rather than a paper format. Mm-hmm. And to that end, we also expect different kinds of data. We expect dimensional data now. We expect sizing and selection data more so than we expect just a vendor pull sheet. So It's becoming very important that we set up this data centricity in the supply chain.
Right. What do you think, Satish, from your point of view?
From a software perspective, if you look at the kind of evolution of how software has helped design, we have always tried to have the data flow between all these various silos. And in that sense, getting this through the supply chain, having transference of data, and reducing any inconsistencies in this data will always help.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. And of course, from you, Philippe, you have to provide all that. You're the supplier of the instruments. Eh?
Yeah. So I think also that this will be also a big time saver. And what we can achieve is that the data is always up to date, because it's our data, as you said. We have to be sure that it's up to date always and that it's correct. So I think that's a pretty good way to go. Yeah.
What do you think, Mike? You place it on the website, right?
Exactly.
For some people for people to access.
Yeah. So what I see is that the sooner in the design process you can introduce actual data from the vendors versus working with generics, which has historically been the standard, the better your overall design process. It's going to be faster. It's going to be cheaper. So I think the sooner we can get to the actual data, the better.
Right. Well, to continue then with you, I mean, when you make almost like an electronic catalog, and you put it on maybe a website for others to use, are you concerned of keeping it current? Because the worst thing is that you get something that is maybe not made anymore or so. It's not current. So
sure.
How do you do that?
So a lot of the current processes the EPCs and stuff are actually looking at catalogs and stuff that are online, but those are vintage documents a lot of times. What we're actually talking about, to John's point, is to making a data-centric environment that the manufacturer is engaged to keep it maintained, so that all of the data that's being accessed is the best data that comes from the manufacturer. Okay. So it is on the website, but it's not static data. It's actually maintained data.
That's right. So Philippe, you maintain that then on a regular basis or so,
sure.
Or as soon as there's a new model, you update that information?
So it is always updated. So as soon as we find something, maybe there's a mistake, we will update it overnight. And for sure, as soon as a new model is launched on our site, all the data is available on the internet.
Right. So John, what do you see as what has something in the work process changed now versus, when I was working at Fluor as engineer, we had books on the shelves, and that were the vendor catalogs.
And you just pull out.
You have to pull out the information. Yeah, and now with this data-centric or this information
online. What we've done now, as part of our data requirements from vendors, we actually specify in our documents now that we receive data now rather than paper or pull sheets. We also have specified that we receive model shapes rather than just dimensional data per se. So we actually expect shape files. We expect true data in a metadata format, so that that data is usable. We can plug it right into our database and go on with our engineering without having to plug it in manually or convert it by some method. So yeah, our method of requiring data and receiving it and putting it into our system has changed considerably. We prefer an XML file or something like that.
Wow. So you make it actually like a prerequisite before
Yes, it's a prerequisite to getting paid.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that cannot be, you cannot get stronger than that, right? Money speaks here. So if you you make the spec sheets and then you communicate with the vendor and so
We
on.
send the spec sheets to them for sizing and selection, and then we receive the sizing data, or actually the manufacturer model number back.
Right.
And we also get back dimensional data with 3D model shapes as well that we can plug directly into our 3D models.
Right. So, do you see what will be a next step of this work process? What do you think we could do next to improve that?
Next, to improve it, we need to get more vendors embraced in this situation.
Okay.
The more vendors that actually give us this information in the same consistent format like we get from ThomasNet, the better off we're going to be. Right now, it's a little bit all over the place. So the more consistent we can get with the way we get the information, the standardized using one of the primary standards, like any 100 or something like that, so that we get the same data sets from all the different vendors would help considerably.
Right. That's one aspect. But I was also thinking, if you make the specification, would you at one point expect the vendor also to propose the best solution? I mean, they will provide you with...
In a lot of cases, the vendors actually come in-house with us and assist us in our engineering, sizing, and selection.
Okay.
So we don't necessarily send this to the vendor. The vendor's already there working side by side with us.
Okay.
So it's not as distant as apparent as it could be.
Okay. That's good.
So we work hand in hand with the vendors a lot closer now in the data-centric tools.
Yeah, because when you as a vendor you get the request like with the data sheet is basically the requirement, but you have to fulfill it with the actual solution, the instrument. Do you also then help with recommending the best solution for the requirement in your interface and in your selection tool?
So at the moment in the interface we have this the issue a little bit like that we will override the data from the customer in this point. So we get his requirements and we will then send him something back in the same fields. So in the future we would like to have that we get kind of requirement file and send him our answer back. Then he can also compare between different vendors, for example, if there are other vendors in the project, and that would be much more easier also for him to accept than our proposal, so to say. That would be much more effective, I would say.
Yeah, okay. And, now we talk, of course, with John and coming from the engineering side. How that would work it for owners? Would owners also be benefiting from an interface to the vendors because they have it already installed? How would that play then when, for instance, in maintenance type of scenarios?
So from our side, I think we as Endress+Hauser has since 10 years our cloud installed also. We would like to always connect our cloud to also the operation phase, so also to the Intergraph cloud, for example. And so all the information that we generate in the engineering will be then in our cloud also available for the customer, and with our cloud in your cloud, and then the customer don't have to leave his environment. That would be the future. I think that would be very, very helpful for the operations phase.
Okay. So Tatis, how you see the interaction with the vendors as the supplier for the solution? Making this connection.
Yeah, that's as Philippe said, the point is we keep the data live and it's up to date. And if we have one central location like smart plan reference data or something like that, where you could manage all the data and from where it is being served after the project, and each enterprise would have their own smart plan reference data instance, which would draw from all of these different catalogs. And Fluor or maybe an owner or somebody, they are maintaining their own instance. And then all the projects would then be using that data. So you set up that virtual supply chain in effect, which is constantly up to date.
Okay, cool. So Mike, how you see this interface maybe evolving from where it is now? What would you think could be improved?
Yeah, I think the instrumentation engineer, specifically, we're talking instruments here, needs to drive the design and stuff, but the more collaborative we can leverage the tools, both the smart plan as well as, vendor-provided tools and the data, the better the overall design is going to be. And with access and internet and cloud-based solutions, I think we have a great opportunity. As again, John mentioned, until we get a critical mass, until we get enough vendors doing it, it becomes really hard for any owner or any EPC to say, we're going to do this, because there's not enough critical mass of vendors there.
Right. But that is coming.
I hope so. Exactly.
Technology is there.
Technology
Yeah,
is
the
absolutely
technology is there, and
Okay.
you would think that these days with the driver of reducing cost and risk, this in my view plays also a factor in that, isn't it? Reducing the cost and the risk when you order, we specify and eventually order and install these components. Great. So, any last comments or
Well,
on
one
this
thing
topic?
that we're looking at very seriously right now is building better APIs or interfaces so that the vendors, instead of us having to send information to them, they reach in and pull the information out directly as they need it. And then they send it back to us and it goes in, and we have a mechanism for management of change and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot that can be done with developing this interface much further than what we're doing it right now, because it's still a kind of a push-pull method.
Right.
And eventually it's going to become more fluid.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a big help too, to get the true integration going between the vendors and the EPCs and the clients.
Yeah, you think the whole cloud deployment would help in that
A
scenario?
major part of it,
Yeah,
yes.
I think so too. Satish, would you have any?
I like the direction this is going in, because it is, again, as John said, having it on the cloud, having it in one central location, and having all the data current would really help speed up the process, tighten cycles, and it would bring down cost and schedule.
Okay. And you are also going to the cloud, right, with your solution?
Yes, that's smart plan reference data is now being offered on the cloud, and
that fits
we'll be
nicely.
making more and more onto the cloud.
Yeah, right. Philippe, any?
Yeah, also for us, the cloud is a very good solution to the most questions we get, so to say. But we are also looking forward for this web API, so really interface, no more files, pulling whatever, and email notification.
That's
If we
right.
can get this one really, on an interface, a web-based interface, it would be
That'd
very
be a
good.
big step.
Yeah.
Michael?
Yeah, and the same thing too. We're trying to deploy more API-based solutions so that we can interface with manufacturing, with Intergraph data, and ultimately with EPC and owner systems. So again, not having static data sets that are distributed that have to be maintained. We see that's obviously the way forward.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you, panel, for the interesting discussion. I think it's a hot topic, and it keeps on evolving and getting better, and I think more adoption in the engineering and the owner-operator world to make that electronic connection and do away with the books, do away with the paper. So I'd like to thank my guest, and if you want to have more information about smart plant reference data, you go to intergraph.com, to our website, and also for more of these TV episodes, go to our inger.com to see more episodes of the Hex Live TV. Thank you.